Hey, guys, Altovise here, your voice manager. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. Listen, this is another episode of the hashtag SpeakEasy Podcast. Guys, we are going all in when it comes to celebrating women for National Women's Month. Now, men, I know, don't get your panties all up in a bunch. We still celebrate you for different things as well. But this particular month, we want to make sure that we are not just highlighting some of the stories, but we are giving them their flowers. So don't just listen in to these episodes. I want you to actually go and connect with these women and find your own personal way of how you can support them as well. So with that being said, I'm excited about my guest for today. You know why? When I was a little girl, I wanted to be an actress. I'm an introvert, so I don't know why I wanted to do that. But with that being said, I'm excited to say hello, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good, girl. I'm good. I just, before we started this interview, I'm like, I've got to give my dog some bully sticks so they won't bark. And my little baby dog, Bodie, he's 7 pounds, but thinks he's like a pit bull. And so he will start yelling at the other bigger dog for the stick. And then they do this thing where they just exchange sticks and bark for 8 hours. It's really fun.
Oh, you gotta love it. And they take over. I mean, at this point, they're little people. They take over.
Seriously. And like with the pandemic, what is being more loved than a dog or an animal in your house right now?
Exactly. They're getting all the attention. They're like, oh, yes, give it to me. I want all of it.
I know. So when we go back to real life, whatever that means, it's going to be really rough. I think my dog is going to have some serious anxiety, PTSD. God bless him. I'm not making fun of that because I have PTSD from a sickness when I was younger. But I mean, dogs are going to like freak out.
You're gonna get a whole bunch of 911 calls where it's just the dog barking.
Cats are gonna be like, bye.
Yeah, cats are gonna be like, I'm good. You're fine.
I was waiting for you to leave.
I got a litter box. You're good. But the dogs are gonna be like,
Well, I love that you brought that up because my first dream was actually to be a singer. That's what I wanted to do, and then acting came later. But I was so afraid of my own life that I never really pursued acting or singing or anything for a long time. I did theater in high school. And then I had the opportunity to pick theater or radio in college. And I dimmed my light and I picked radio. And not to say that I wasn't good at radio. I was great. But hey. I was going to a school in South Georgia called Valdosta State. I grew up right outside of ATL. ATL represent. And I just wasn't ready to deal with that anxiety that would come to me with my stage fright. I wasn't ready to deal with not being the best. I had a really hard time as a Leo, as a perfectionist. If I can't come and be the best, I'm not even going to try. That was my old mindset, right? In my teenage years. And I held myself back for years. So I ended up working behind the scenes in film production, TV and tour production and event production. So I was art directing on Food Network shows. I was assisting A-list actors. I was chefing for A-list producers. I was doing craft service. I was a locations assistant. I swept production floors. I mean, honey, I did everything I could to be in the business, but wasn't projecting my own light. So I missed out on a lot of years in a way, but also I don't regret it because the things I've learned in the business, I will never have that opportunity. I think, again, if I had just started as an actor and not seen the business side and not seen like the stamina you need to have as a person in production, I don't think I would have been able to transition into acting today.
Oh, that's so significant. I know for me, I lived vicariously through my girls. So 3 teenage girls, and they did musicals. When the opportunity opened up, I was like, oh yeah, go for it. Go ahead and try out. And it was so funny. My oldest daughter, she was like, no, she was like, oh, well, I don't know. And then she was like, well, I really want to go out because I think the first one was Beauty and the Beast. And she was like, oh, well, I kind of want to be Belle, but I don't know if I would get chosen for Belle, all this stuff. And then she's like, well, maybe I'll do this one. But she goes ahead and she tries out. And
Yes.
it's so exciting. And so she comes back and she's like, well, I got chosen, but I got chosen for Chip. She said, I don't know how I feel about that.
I feel that though. I feel that so hard, Altovise, because I tried out for Grease in high school and I wanted to be Rizzo. And let me tell you,
And she was Rizzo, and they just did Grease last year. She was Rizzo.
Oh, that's so exciting. That's so exciting because I tried out, let me tell you, and I walked up on that stage and I was like, flicking my cigarette, I was a freshman in high school. I was bringing the Rizzo vibes. They didn't pick my ass. They said I was great, but they picked the senior. So because that was their last play and they were going to go to college. Angie Dean, bitch, I see you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Can I cuss on your show? I'm so sorry.
But it was so funny. And they did it every year.
Yeah.
Last year, well, the last school year they did Grease. And of course they couldn't do anything for this school year.
They didn't do it online?
No. And it was like heart-wrenching because they were like, oh, we want that engagement. Like we want that interaction.
Yes.
But I got to live vicariously through them. And so not only did they do Beauty and the Beast, they did Shrek, they did Grease, and they did my favorite, Little Shop of Horrors. So
I did tech for Little Shop of Horrors.
I love it.
That's what happened in high school. When you didn't get the role, they threw you into chorus, which is what I did in Grease. And then I definitely didn't get the role in Little Shop of Horrors. They're like, girl, do the lights. I'm like, okay. So I think like a lot of the dumbing myself down in my talent was because if I didn't get the role, I felt there was no role for me.
That's good.
Because they put me in the back.
That's good. That's a heck of a lesson learned when it comes to, being in that industry. And it leads me to another point, because when we think about the actress industry, oh my goodness, everything's been flipped upside down.
Oh yeah, and it's a horrible frame of mind to think if you don't get the role but you get a smaller role, it's not significant. And every role is important. And I remember the first time I was a PA on Zombieland with Bill Murray and a bunch of other people that were in that movie, Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson. And I went grocery shopping and I came back. I was an office PA. I came back with all the food and I got all the organic stuff. This is like 2009, okay? Before everyone was like, organic, like it was just really becoming a necessity in the home to buy really expensive produce. Scam. But I came back and one of the producers walked by and they said, thank you. You're so good at this. Like, oh my God, the food selection. And that was by the way, foreshadow to my chef life and all the other things I did. They're like, you're so great at this. Like all the crafty that you got, they call it craft service. And I was like, thank you. I'm just a PA. And he looked at me and he said, you're not just. Don't ever say you're just. And that set a trajectory for me understanding that every single person matters. Every single person has a place. Every single person has a voice. Every single person has a position and role that's vital to a production coming to life. And I was hooked and eventually went, in front of the camera.
So what's been your most memorable moment as an actress? Like, what's that moment that you're just like, ha, she did that?
Well, I know you were starting to hint to talking about how things have changed with acting, but I mean, my first adult audition, this is nuts. My first adult audition was at 33, which was 4 years ago. And I walked into Ellen Lewis's office, who is responsible for Gangs of New York, some of the biggest movies, Martin Scorsese movies of all time. And I walked in to audition for The Irishman. And she talked to me for the first 10 minutes. And I was like, this is cool. Like I had heard all these horror stories, you know, as I'm pivoting into acting at 33, going back to New York to pursue this dream in front of the camera, right? Instead of behind the scenes, I'm hearing all these horror stories about how casting directors cut you off and you better be prepared, which is true. Both of those things can be true. But I went into this space with this legend. I mean, she's just as famous as any actor, but she's a casting director. And she's just sat with me for 10 minutes. And then she had me read 3 different roles. And then I realized when I walked out the door that she was just trying to get the best version of me. And she sat there to speak to me so I could get into the zone. What a magical thing that she gives the patience to nervous actors. I mean, my knees were shaking. I looked great on the outside, but inside I was like, you know, it was like a nightmare. And what a gift that she gives, as busy as she is, as big as she is, as many awards as she's won and the accomplishments she's had, to give an actor that gift to relax into their body and be able to then speak it how it's meant to be spoken, so you can translate to the director when he watches your tape. And then a couple months later, I was already working on the film as an assistant, but ironically, a couple months later, I got a call and they cast me.
Love that. I love that. So with all your experience, with everything that has gotten kind of flipped upside down, I've seen some actors and actresses that are just like, oh, what are we doing? What happens? What's next? Which way is left? I don't know. And then others are like, I'm gonna show up anyway.
Yeah, I'm a show up anyway. And it wasn't as a gimmick. It was just like, I wanted to connect with people during quarantine, because I know for me, I'm an introvert extrovert. I'm mostly an extrovert, but I do like my alone time. But I was becoming way too introverted in New York because I'm an empath and I'm sensitive to energies. So I would just like make my apartment my sanctuary, and then had a lot of back issues. So I just never leave. So everything got delivered to my house. Like, this is a couple months before COVID hit. So I was already like in this pre-COVID state, but I wasn't really creating. And when COVID hit, my back was against the wall, just like everybody else. And you realize you're not promised tomorrow. And within the first week of lockdown, I was in Puerto Rico when it all happened. My friend called me and said, Broadway shut down, don't come home. And I'm like, whoa, if Broadway shut down, this is big. So I flew from Puerto Rico home to Georgia, where I am here now, where I grew up. And I created a show just by interviewing people about their stories, their COVID stories, their talents, not just about what was happening, sharing recipes with chefs and doing it live. I'm a former chef, so I have had a lot of chefs on, actors, directors, writers. And it was a way to connect visually on Instagram. And it just kind of took off. And then eventually I got signed to an agency a couple months later, a really big agency, Buckwell Talent. Represent to my agent, Scott. And I got signed for unscripted alternative programming, and we're in the process of pitching to sell the show. So yeah, it was like, I was doing it to connect. I wasn't doing it to be famous, and I'm not famous, but to be anything other than someone that wanted to maintain and build a community. So it's everything from racial injustice talks. It's everything from climate change. It was what was happening and what's always been happening, but speaking it now, because now has been the time forever, you know?
Oh my goodness. So you just differentiated for the SpeakEasy listeners, the difference between passion for something and I'm just doing it for a check. When you have a passion for something, you have a drive to do it no matter what. And so showing up, listen, if I got to do a YouTube channel, if I got to do a live stream, if I got to just go ahead and show up on Clubhouse, however I'm going to show up, I'm going to do it. And you never know where that next opportunity is going to come from.
Yeah, this was never for a paycheck, and I'm not getting paid right now. That's a fact. People will send me stuff and promo stuff. I am starting to hopefully sign some brand deals really soon. I'm in talks with people, but like, you know how I know it is a successful show? Because I wake up when I'm doing my show, tonight's my show, Wednesday, 8 p.m. On Instagram. I'm excited. I get energy. It doesn't drain me. It fuels me. And also this week, one of my past guests was on the Ellen Show.
I love that.
So, I mean, it's like, so it's like, I'm not Ellen, but she's a hero. And the fact that she has somebody on that I had on my show a year ago just goes to show I'm in alignment. And I think it's about being in alignment and being grateful. And I found my voice as a host and as an actor and as a human being. I found the activism and advocacy in me for other causes and people. And I will not be silenced.
Ooh, I love that. Listen, as a fellow podcaster, I'm feeling all the vibes right now. I got all the feels because when you get to connect with people as a podcaster, as somebody doing a show that you created,
Yeah.
and you get to see the things that they're doing, you get to see them go off to something else, like seeing them on the local news, seeing them, and you're just like, I know them.
Exciting. It's good to be happy for other people, y'all. Don't be hating, because you know what that does? That brings your vibration down and your abundance disappears.
Exactly.
We have to grow up and glow up together.
That's it. That's it. So I'm excited about this episode because, again, when we think about the journey that you go through, it's not it's a glamorized journey.
Yeah, it's definitely glamorized.
It's glamorized, like
It's not
major
glamorous.
glamorized. Nobody sees the behind the scenes. Nobody sees when the doors are closed. Nobody sees where, you had this amazing, look, we talked about this a little beforehand. We won't go into it in detail, but
Okay.
where you have these great moments and you can't even talk about it because you signed an NDA. We have those moments and you're just,
Yeah.
it
I
just
mean, I wouldn't be here without certain people in my life.
right.
And not because they put me in a place of wealth or fame or an audition room, but it's because they believed in me. And I attribute that to Mel Robbins and Al Pacino. Without them, I would not be sitting here right now living in my truth, period. And that's all I'm going to say.
So significant. It's important because, guys, what we fail to realize is that the people that we meet along the way, we got to stop discrediting who they are to us in our life and our journey. Like, we don't know what's going to come next. We met them for a reason. Now,
Yes.
the outcome may not have been favorable all the time, but we met them for a reason. There's something you can take away from every interaction you have with people.
Yes. And I have horror stories of other people I've worked for in the business. And it's not even worth mentioning because I just did mention it, but I broke down and then I grew. And that's the thing, is like, there's beauty in the breakdown.
Ooh.
That's a song. What is it? Oh, oh God, what is her name? It's called Let Go, and it's Beauty in the Breakdown. I'll look it up, but yeah, there is beauty in the breakdown. It's on the Orange County soundtrack. Frou, Frou, and then FROU, Frou, Beauty in the Breakdown.
I love that. I love it. So now, in your journey, has there been any moment where you've looked and said, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to make it past this moment.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started the show, like, it was fun. And then there was a moment where I was obsessed with followers. And I was like, is everyone going to see this? Like, what am I doing this for? Where's the money? And I had to check my ego, and I had to go back to my why. Whenever you have a problem with what you're doing or how you're saying something, or if you have a follower, I like to call it community. But you've got to go back to your why. That's how you reset your mind, because then it'll remind you why you started. So my why was for connection, community, and to live in my truth and my light, and talk about my body dysmorphia, talk about my daddy issues and my need for validation from men, talk about how I didn't stand in my light. And I uplifted a lot of people for a long time, but they were sucking things out of me. They were like energy vampires. So now with my mindset work, lack mindset versus abundant mindset, and coaches I've listened to and podcasts and all the things, we all have so many helpers and guides in our life, right? With all that, I've now been able to say, okay, I'm unapologetic, but I'm also empathetic. And it's okay to be both. And I find that anytime that I come from an aggressive standpoint, because I am aggressive in a way after my dreams, but anytime I'm aggressive with a person, I never get the results I want. So I can still be unapologetic and empathetic and get my message across.
Oh, I love that, because it speaks to that EQ.
Yes.
It speaks to that EQ, and I think we've taken a huge shift from IQ to EQ. I'll say even more so within the last 5 to 10 years, there's been a huge shift where we're looking and saying, okay, you may be right in that moment, but is it worth all that?
Yeah.
You may be right in that moment, but is it really worth all that? And, all of the other things that come with being able to be empathetic with other people, you understand, guess what? We all have different lives. We have different journeys, different experiences. That's one of the reasons why I started doing the podcast, because I saw that so many people coming into any type of industry within that first 5 years, they get so distracted because of the little things that come up against them that they quit. Yes, they quit.
Well, but they quit because they are taking on too much that isn't them. They're trying to do what someone else is doing. And that's the thing, is like, when I describe my new show on Clubhouse, Ellen Meets Oprah Meets Late Night, I don't want to be Ellen Oprah or a late night show. I want to be me. But the reason why I describe it that way, because A, you only get this much in the little description of the show you're doing, right?
Exactly.
But B, it's like, it's fun, but it's also transformational, but it's also like silly, because it's have a glass of wine and sit on my Clubhouse couch and talk to me about your life, your transformations, comedy, live performances. It's sort of the same thing with Quarantine But Cute, but I'm taking it in an audio state here on Clubhouse, and it's premiering this Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'm not trying to do what anybody else is doing, but I'm also not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm showing up as myself. And people, my acting coach, Josh Pice, who's going to be on the show in a couple months, says this all the time. People don't want to see you act. They want you. Give them you. And through that, you can never fail.
Oh my goodness, that was such a drop the mic moment.
Woo!
Oh, I love it. Podcast listeners, you guys know that I do it all for you, because I want to make sure that you elevate in life and in business. And guess what? I want you to get past that first 5 years and go well beyond that in whatever industry you choose to go in. So, and also I want to say thank you to Lauren, because again, you are doing some phenomenal things. I thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to hear from you and listen to your story and check you out. That part is so valuable. So Lauren, let them know how they can connect with you. Some of them are listening and saying, oh, she's on Clubhouse. Let me, what's her at?
All right. So first thing, I just want to say this before I tell you where you can find me. No matter what you're doing, you do not have to be an expert. You just need to start. Your sort of journey will transform as it goes, and just be open to how it directs you. I never thought I would be on podcasts again and getting offers to do podcasts. Like this is what I thought what my old life was. But why am I saying it like that? Like it's negative. It's not negative. But in my mind, I thought, oh, here I am repeating something I've already done. No. I'm getting an opportunity to show who I am now. So just in your transformation, be open to it morphing into something else. I think sometimes you can have a goal, but if you have a fixed goal, like you've got to leave room for those edits and adjustments to grow within your business and within your humanity. So with that, you can find me on Instagram at Lauren Aparicio. It's Aparicio, which means apparition or manifestation. My dad is from Spain. So it's and I don't talk to my dad anymore. So anyway, sometimes you got to cut off people. It's A like Apple, P like Paul, Aricio, Lauren Aparicio. And that is on all platforms, Instagram, Clubhouse. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not on it. So really you want to connect with me on Clubhouse and on Instagram. That's the best place to find me. And my show, Quarantine But Cute is every Wednesday, typically around 8, depending on the guest, because I do interview people from all over the world. Tonight, I have Michael Kushner. He's a part of the Broadway community. He's also an incredible photographer that did my headshots and has multiple podcasts on Apple and Spotify. And then my new show premieres this Friday, Behind the Curtain, my Oprah meets Ellen meets late night show. And we're interviewing Nikki Trott. She's a transformational coach on Clubhouse. She's very well known. And she's going to come and sit down and chat with me with a Q&A at the end. So it's going to be podcast style. Not many people are doing that on Clubhouse. It's very interactive. This is actually people coming in and just listening until the last 15 minutes with an open Q&A. So I'm really excited to premiere that. That's going to be every Friday at 9 p.m. on Clubhouse, 9 p.m. Eastern.
I have to say, I love what Clubhouse is doing for the podcasting community, that we're really kind of setting a whole new standard, when it comes to, because I think that was like the main thing that's missing when it comes to podcasting is you don't have like that engagement from the audience. So you're like waiting to see who downloads and, all of that stuff.
Totally.
I love that interaction on Clubhouse. Listen, it's amazing.
Well, I'm going to test it out. It may not work where we're sitting there for an hour and no one's allowed to raise their hand or come up. Maybe people will think we're like ego crazy, but I mean, hopefully I hope they don't think that and they see it like as an interview with me really highlighting this guest and
Look,
really
I've seen
highlighting
people
their life.
in Clubhouse rooms for like days.
Yeah, but everybody trying to raise their hand. And I got a room about that called It's Just a Green Dot, Breathe. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow on Clubhouse too. You can follow me on Clubhouse and see all the rooms that I do by hitting the bell and clicking always follow. That way you get a ping in the room. But I'm just so happy that you wanted to have me on your show. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and share my light, and your light is beautiful and what you're doing and allowing people to come and share their stories. And that's what I do. So, I mean, big up.
Yes, indeed. SpeakEasy Podcast listeners, again, this is all for you. Make sure that you're letting us know how this episode resonated with you by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. But not just that, make sure that you check out Lauren and you follow what she is doing as well. Because guess what? It's all about elevating. It's all about community. It's all about support. And guys, you have the opportunity to be the support that somebody needs.
Yes.
With that being said, I am your host, Altovise Felder, your voice manager. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.